Seahawks fans, wherever you may be, thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football.
Seahawks fans, welcome back to another edition of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers, here to talk Seahawks football and a preseason Game 1 recap show. We're going to give our impressions about the game and the players that played in it. Welcome in.
Yeah, even interesting game. It's hard to. I was so excited for football, and then I got there and remembered it was preseason football, and it looked a lot like preseason football, and so coming away, it's a lot less exciting than it was going in. But at the same time, there was a lot to like. Some questions that were answered, some other questions that needed answered. But overall, not bad.
At least it's not just us that gets caught up in like the hype of getting back into football. Devin Bush was quoted at the end of the game saying that, I think Seattle's going to make going to go to the Super Bowl. We've got a lot of great, so he's getting caught up into it too. So it's fun to be able to watch the games again, but you do need to remember, that most of these, like there were 4 or 5 starters on each team that played a handful of snaps. And by the halftime, both teams' starters were out of the game. And so you're talking second, third, fourth stringers, the vast majority of which are going to be practice squad players or off the roster if the season were to start tomorrow. And that's, but you still look at the play of standout players that pop, players that show athleticism and so forth, because that does translate into the regular season. These guys got to start somewhere. You only can play the players, and the team that's in front of you at the time. And of course, you and I have seen countless, every single preseason for me that has ever existed for the team. And it is what it is. It's fun to watch, but it is tempered a little bit. And it's hard because you're ready to go. You want the team to be successful. All these guys are exciting, making plays, and we'll just see how it goes. I'll give you an example, like Levi Bell at linebacker had a 3 quarterback hits and a sack in this game, and probably won't make the roster. So it's just one of those things. You just have to be careful. Even a guy like Jake Bobo, who had a great game, stood out as the offensive player of the game, I thought, along with Drew Lock. And here's a guy that's just fringy. Now, if D. Eskridge was healthy and not suspended, Jake Bobo might not even make the roster. So it's just one of those things. So I wanted to start off the top by talking about Cade Johnson. Left the game on a cart, basically, went to the hospital after the game, had a concussion, and kind of walked off the field a little dazed, went into the tent, spent the majority of a quarter in the tent, and then the field staff there decided to put him on a stretcher, stabilize his neck and head, and he just went there for precautionary reasons. According to Pete Carroll, that's really all it really amounted to, was a concussion. While being serious on its own, there were no other major structural issues or anything like that. So that was good news considering the circumstances there. And then I wanted to also say D. Eskridge was hurt on the very first play of the game in kick return coverage, twisted his knee. Don't know the severity of that. Very unfortunate for that player, obviously. Twitter's kind of going crazy on him. I feel a little bad for the guy, but it is what it is. And then I'll mention too, Cody Thompson was held out of the game. He had some groin discomfort yesterday before the game, so he didn't play.
Yeah.
That was the extent of the injuries as far as anything.
The D. Eskridge, like the people, Twitter going crazy on D. Eskridge is going to get a shrug from me, because hasn't that been the issue with him, is that the moment he steps on a field, he gets hurt. And the fact that it was on the first play just kind of man, that's just right on him.
Being that they're all kind of unrelated injuries, spans of time in between them, etc. It's frustrating because he just may not have the body type to hold up, in the NFL.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those deals that you just kind of have to work through. It is what it is. We'll see if he's available after week 6. I doubt that he plays anymore, depending on the severity of his injury. And he could end up being off the roster, but by the time that week 6 or 7 rolls around. Who knows? All right. Let's talk about players, Keith, because this was a fun game to watch. It really was.
Yeah.
The first couple series didn't turn out so well for the Seahawks. I thought the defense kind of played well. Minnesota had some things going a little bit and ended up scoring, got up by 10 points on Seattle, but Seattle eventually came back. None of that really matters. What we're talking about is individual performances really in these games anyway.
Yeah, because, most of the starters didn't play at all. They weren't even in the game. And so there's a lot of backups, a lot of third stringers on both sides. In the first half, it's mostly backups and a couple of starters, but by the second half, all the backups are gone too, for the most part. And so, these are guys that are fighting for a job. And so it really is about individual performances, not about, how the team did or anything like that. At the same time, guys that are, especially on defense, guys that are trying too hard to get stats and show ups to try and make the roster end up out of position, and they end up getting gashed in the run game. So, and that shows up,
affect other players as well.
Well, yeah, and it also shows up on the film. It's not just stats. You go look at the film and you see a guy jump into the wrong gap because he was trying to make a play, and the cutback gave up a big run. Well, then that's a negative for him, right? So there's a lot to look at, a lot to watch. We haven't really had time to digest the coach's tape in depth, but at the same time, there's some things that we can talk about, some definite positives, I think, that came out of this game.
I agree, and I kind of like the defensive play, but I wanted to start on the offense just a little bit because I thought Drew Lock looked pretty decent. Now, it was a little hit and miss, I thought, in the first half. I don't really hold that interception that he had against him. I think that was in the third quarter. If you look at it really closely, I think his arm got brushed or the ball got hit at the line of scrimmage there. Now, maybe he could have worked a little harder to avoid that. I don't know exactly what his vision was at that point, but I'm not going to put that 100% on him. And then, credit to him, on the very next drive, he came back to Jake Bobo with that corner route, short of the end zone, and Bobo found a way to get in. So I thought that was great too, that he came back, that the team left him in there, I think, with that opportunity, and he did that. So that's a credit to him. What did you think of overall?
I think if he hadn't thrown that interception, he was done after that drive. But because it was an interception, the team brought him back out and gave him one more possession just to
I agree.
Have it so, mentally, that wasn't his last. He didn't get pulled because, or feel like that. So,
exactly. Right.
And it turned out really good for him. I thought Locke did pretty well. The running game really struggled in the first half. And the pass blocking was not there for a lot of it. He was constantly getting harassed. There's a lot of pressure, and he still managed to take what the defense gave him, complete a high percentage of his passes, not turn the ball over until the second half drive. But I thought he did okay. I mean, he didn't come out and wow anyone, but he did okay for a backup quarterback. He looked great.
There was that one touchdown throw to Aesop Winston that I thought was really nice. I mean, he really lasered it in there, a couple of defenders right there, and he threw it right in the perfect spot for that completion. And
so I thought the Jake Bobo touchdown was more impressive because of the touch and the small window that he had to fit the ball in and drop it down to him. Did not give the defender an opportunity to make a play on the ball. It was just a really nice touch pass.
I Yeah, I agree with you, but I disagree as well because I think the first throw where in the first half there to put Seattle on the board to me showed a certain confidence that only a player that has been in the league for a little while can come in and do. And I thought that he stepped up forcefully in the pocket. He lasered that thing in there, showed his arm strength, confidence to get that ball into a small, tight window. You mentioned the window with Bobo. Both were great throws, completely opposite end of the spectrum throws for a quarterback. One is a touch throw where you just got to get it right over the shoulder with Bobo. And then with Winston, Aesop Winston, it was a laser right in there for the touchdown in the end zone. So I thought overall he looked pretty good. You mentioned the running game, Keith. I think without the Holton Allers scramble in the fourth quarter to kind of pad those running stats a little bit, Seattle was going to average about 3.1 yards per carry, kind of anemic a little bit. But you add that in, we finished at 4.1 yards per carry, a little over 100 yards on 26 some odd rushes, I believe. I thought that the standout in the running game was Bryant Kobach, the original undrafted rookie free agent that spent time in Minnesota's training camp and practice squad last year. Looked really solid, had 41 receiving yards as well, 75 yards from scrimmage on 9 touches. Led the team. He helped himself, certainly. No, those came in the second half. I want to make that perfectly clear when the Minnesota had second, third string guys out there as well. But nonetheless, I thought our offensive line kind of came together a little bit better in the second half.
I think the talent on the other side of the line of scrimmage dropped in the second half, which is what happens. But then it was different guys out there for Seattle. There were guys that played in the first half that didn't play in the second on the offensive line.
Greg Island out there, Anthony Bradford, Joey Hunt was out there, Jalen McKenzie, guys like that.
I did think that the offensive line struggled in the first half. And it's a testament to Drew Lock that he was only sacked once because there was a lot of pressure on him. But that meant he was making reads pre-snap and getting the ball out of his hand. And that is what you got to do. I mean, your blocking is not going to be great all the time. It's not going to be great most of the time. And so you got to be able to know what's going on, be aware of what's around you, and get the ball out of your hand, which was, one of those things that we always struggled with when Wilson was here, is because he didn't want to do that. He wanted to make people miss and extend plays and go for the big play. And it worked incredibly well because of his athleticism, but he also gave up a lot of bad sacks. The fact that Locke only gave up one is, I don't know, to me that's a great sign.
So give me a couple of names that stood out to you, both either in a good way or a bad way that you want to talk about.
Let's see. Smith-Njigba stood out in the first part of the game. You could tell he was the most talented, receiver out there, even with the other guys. But the opposing team kind of tried to lock him down, and it didn't matter. And he was kind of having his way out there, just always open. Even on plays that he didn't get the ball, he was still open. And you got to love that. And that's what they drafted him for. And to me, it stood out. I mean, his stats ended up being,
he didn't play very much. He had 3
He
catches,
didn't. Three catches for 25 yards. That's not all that impressive, but he was out of the game by the end of the first quarter. So, but overall, I was pretty impressed with what I saw from him. And the other one would have been Oluwatimi, the second string center. He came in and yes, he was playing against weaker opponents because it was second half and all of that. But he looked very much in control of what he was doing in his job and didn't give up the pressure up the middle that they had in the first half. And I thought overall he did an outstanding job there in the middle.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's hard to measure the play of those guys, especially in preseason, but I thought he looked competent, looked good. According to Corbin Smith, he feels like he did enough to really kind of revisit the starting role between Evan Brown and Oluwatimi. I think it might be pronounced Timmy at the end. I've heard that a few times from different people. Yeah, and so that's pretty exciting. Hopefully he gets some more opportunities in camp the rest of the way. I believe he probably will. I was really impressed on the other side of the ball with Boye Mafe.
Yes, I thought we were just doing offense at this point, but yeah, okay. Mafe looked like a man among boys. He was the best player on the field in the first half on either team.
I agree. I mean, that holding that edge, you probably remember the play, the holding the edge against the run, and then shedding the block against the tackle, keeping him at arm's length the whole way, and then making that tackle for a 2-yard loss behind the line of scrimmage was, I thought, the play of the game. Even though it might seem insignificant to most people, and you watch the game flow and whatnot, but for me, that stood out because that's something that is a play that you want to see. We didn't have enough of those last year. We really suffered against the run. And a guy like Boye Mafe was one of our best run defenders last year, but in limited opportunities. If a guy like Boye Mafe is showing up like that now, and making those kind of plays, and from everything that we've heard about out of training camp, is he's made the biggest jump from year to year as far as his level of play. He may end up taking that starting spot because you can't keep him off the field.
I think he's already got it. And I'm okay with that. Like, he was the better player last year. Darrell Taylor showed his value in the second half of the year with those sacks, but playing mostly as a situational pass rusher. Mafe is more of an every down guy, and I like that. And I thought that he showed why he belongs in the starting lineup. And yeah, just like I said, he was the best player on the field. He really was. It was hard to see anyone else doing the things that he did at the speed that he did them. He really just kind of dominated in his own little way. It's a hard position on the field to dominate because, you're in on every play, but those that went in his direction, they wished they hadn't, you know what I mean? Like, he was just the better player.
And hearing, oh my gosh, now I've lost it. Former player in the booth last night. He was on there briefly before the feed issues.
Michael Bennett.
Michael Bennett was talking about his hand usage and his hand strength year over year. And Michael Bennett was yelling at him the other day, use your hands. I mean, so a guy like Boye Mafe took that, and then that play illustrated perfectly what we're talking about here, is keeping those offensive linemen from getting into his body, into his chest, into his lower half at all, and being able to shed that block in an instant and make that play is awesome to me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So
Michael
let's talk about everybody else.
Michael Bennett would know about good hand usage as a defender because he was a master of that. That's part of the reason why he was dominant. Yeah. So yeah, for him to be praising Mafe is that's a good sign because he definitely knows what he's looking at.
So I'm just going to kind of run through a list and maybe we can just go back and forth. We've already talked about Jake Bobo a lot. I think that Jake helped himself with this game, especially when you take a look at D. Eskridge being out, Cody Thompson not being able to play. A guy like Jake Bobo steps up in his moment when he had the opportunity. And, he only had 3 receptions for 53 yards, but the nice touchdown, a couple of other nice plays, chain moving plays. He just
down the
looks
field.
the part, right? He just looks like
Does.
he's able to get open, make plays, move the chains.
Yeah, and he did it as a starter, meaning he was playing he played throughout the game, but at the beginning of the game, he was out there against the top defensive backs for Minnesota and showed that he could get open and all of those things. So I have a hard time seeing him not make the roster, especially with Eskridge starting the season suspended. He just looked really, really good.
I wanted to talk about Kobe Bryant for a second because in looking at the defense and looking at the opportunities there, it looks like Kobe Bryant is kind of a natural looking safety to me. He's a little bigger than I remember him being, and when he had an opportunity to make some tackles, he just stuck his head in there and really kind of hit the hole and made some plays. Now, obviously, he had it was hit and miss for him. He also allowed a couple things to get past him, but the team, from all accounts, is looking at him at free safety essentially, and he played that spot in the defense. I saw him playing deep quite a few times.
He was there for most of the game. He was back as a free safety. I thought he played all right. Gave up a touchdown because he made the wrong read and didn't shift over and left Trey Brown covering two people in a corner. He also missed a few tackles. And he it looks like he tackles like a cornerback. That's because he is a cornerback. But yeah, so those are the my concerns.
I'm going to stop you right there. Hold on. You mentioned just a key thing right at the beginning of your comment on Kobe Bryant and said that he played most of the game. I think that's important because I got the impression from watching him and him being in there later in the game that the coaches really wanted to allow him to just kind of get a real feel for the position in a game and just go through, all the scenarios and make all the adjustments and so forth and fail and have successes. So that was my takeaway from him playing, really, was just the amount of time that he played.
Yeah, it looked a lot like when he and Woolen both played almost the entire game at corner last year in the first preseason game. And the coaches left him out there to take their lumps. And they took a lot of lumps then. And Bryant took a lot of lumps yesterday. I mean, he looked really good at times. You could tell there's some natural ability to read and flow and make plays on the ball. Like he looks like he's going to be a ball hawk, but he also, screwed up some coverage a couple times, missed some tackles. There's some things for him to clean up. It's also his first game at the position ever. So let's, not say that he's, not a good player. I mean, he's a guy that he showed enough to me to warrant, hey, let's keep trying this, because he could very easily end up as a, backup free safety / slot corner, a guy that can do the Julian Love things and provide some key depth and versatility for them.
So one of the positions that's going to be really important to figure out is off the ball linebacker, middle linebacker in a 3-4. And a couple of players yesterday that played quite a bit, actually, Devin Bush and John Radigan. And I wanted to talk about both. Devin Bush had some nice hits, finished with 6 tackles and a tackle for a loss. Also had a crushing hit on a punt coverage rep where he was the first player down in coverage, which was a good sign considering the concerns with his knee. I thought that was cool. John Radigan had a mixed bag of a game. He finished with 9 tackles overall, but he had at least 3 tackles that he missed as well, or out of his assignment, essentially. What did you think of those 2 players?
I thought Bush played fast, which is what going into the game I said I wanted to see from him. Because, since his knee injury his rookie year, he hasn't played fast, and that's been the problem. But he says he's healthy now, and it's taken a couple of years for him to get fully back. And the fact that he was playing fast, and you're right, the fact that he was the first one down on that punt coverage is a great sign. And he hit well. He wrapped up. He made tackles. I think he only missed one tackle in the entire game, which is one more than you'd like. But at the same time, like compared to Radigan, who missed a few, it's better. Radigan also was in position to make more tackles, which meant that he was reading what was going on and flowing to the ball and getting there, making 9, and missing 3. So that means that in the time that he was in there, that's enough for 12 tackles. That's a good showing for a guy like him who missed all of last year.
What do you think about the opportunity missed for Vi Jones in this game?
Do
you think he's going to get a chance to come back and reclaim that spot, or do you think both players make the roster?
I don't know if Vi Jones didn't make a tackle. Did he play?
No, he was out injured.
Okay. Because I'm literally looking at the defensive stats and I'm like, his name's not even on here. But yeah, I mean, he needs to get healthy and he needs to come back. He was ahead of Radigan at the start of camp, and now I can't say that's true.
Sticking with the position just really quick, Levi Bell, I thought looked interesting. Had 3 quarterback hits and a sack. Former USFL player. Just somebody to kind of keep an eye on in camp. See if you hear any buzz, anything like that. Maybe the second preseason game he's got some more opportunities. And then Pete Carroll volunteered. Matt, his one of his players that he noticed that popped for him was linebacker Patrick O'Connell. It didn't for me, but Pete's on the sideline. He's seeing all that stuff. It impressed him defending the run tonight. Undrafted rookie free agent out of Montana.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up with 5 tackles, none behind the line of scrimmage, no quarterback hits, or pressures or any of that kind of stuff. So it didn't pop.
It depends on his assignment, really.
Yeah, it is, and he's an off the ball linebacker. So There's that. I'm just saying, like he didn't really pop to me, but at the same time, by that point in the game, I was watching other guys more closely, and probably I'm sure I'll notice him more when I get back to the tape and get a chance to really digest it. But yeah, I'm going to trust Pete Carroll on there. If he's going to come in and volunteer a name of an undrafted rookie, that's right. Big.
It's something to note. Yes,
it's very and the team needs backup off the ball linebackers, right? You've got Wagner and
special team guys too.
You got Wagner and Bush, and if those are going to be your starters, who's behind them? Now we thought it was going to be Vi Jones, maybe not. John Radigan looked good, but missed tackles. You can't miss tackles. If O'Connell is doing the right things, getting into the right spot, not missing assignments, not missing tackles, that is really valuable to the team as a backup middle linebacker.
I will say this. I'm hearing rumblings that Jordan Brooks is closer to returning than not, and that he is likely now to be available for game number 1, which is interesting. Yeah, he's full go in practice. He's making all the cuts. He's running full speed. He's doing all the things except for being in game shape, which can take a while, and depending on how far away he is from that, he could be active game 1, which would be great news for the Seahawks and a tremendous recovery for Jordan Brooks, the player, for sure.
Yeah, he's also not doing anything with contact yet, so
that's part of the game shape stuff for sure.
So he's still got a couple weeks minimum. But he's got like a month till game 1.
Right.
He's got 4 weeks. So that is a great sign. I'm still skeptical just because of the injury and when it happened. And it's nothing against him. It's just I'm always with those kind of injuries going to be one of those guys that's like, slow play it. Let him get fully healthy. Let him be itching to get back on the field, not rushing to get back on the field. You know what I mean? because I want him to be healthy and available long term, not just week one. You know what I mean? And so I would rather have them go into week one without him, and have him weeks, 4 through 17, than go in week one and have him be on and off, the injured list all season.
So there's a handful of players that I want to talk about: Mike Morris, Derek Hall, Jonathan Sutherland. But there's one player that I think deserves mention. I don't really hear too much other chatter about him out there in the Twitterverse and other places on the internet. Jacob Sykes at defensive tackle, I thought had one of the most impressive games, to be completely honest. Plays a position that you're not going to notice a lot, but I thought that he stood out as a player. He had a quarterback hit. He had a pass batted down. He had multiple pressures from the interior, especially in the second half, including that one drive where they sacked him and pressured the quarterback in 3 consecutive plays and forced a 3-and-out at it, which would have been a key point in a game in the regular season. I just thought that he kind of stood out, and I'm really anxious to kind of see more of him. He's an undrafted guy from is it Harvard, maybe? So one of the Ivy League schools. So he's a real smart guy, obviously, coming from the Ivy League, and just real impressive as far as being able to get in there and affect the pocket. Okay, so let's talk about Mike Morris and Derek Hall. I love the little windows of opportunities that both players had. Mike Morris looks the part. He's one of the most impressive specimens that you can see on a football field at 6'7", is he? 6'6", something like that, 300 pounds, playing on the interior. I just want to see more of him. And then Derek Hall, I thought, looked good, made some plays, got some pressures, looks the part, and just I want to see more of him. And then Jonathan Sutherland got the start over a player like Jarek Reed, who did not. Jarek Reed came on and played in the second half a little bit more, noticed him, but Jonathan Sutherland was out there. He was on that punt return coverage that almost had that downing of the ball at the half-yard line, and they just missed it a little bit.
Yeah, because
he stepped on the line just barely with his toe.
Bobo was able to get in,
exactly,
and swat it back, and then Sutherland caught it, realized he wasn't going to stay out, tried to toss it back again, so it would have been like a double, toss out, but he had stepped on the line, and that's why it got it's so much hustle, and there were 5 guys there.
That's another thing for Jake Bobo at his cap. I mean,
yeah,
he's the first guy down there making a play in the end zone to get the ball. I mean, there's where he's going to make the roster, if he's going to make the roster.
Yep. And Sykes was from UCLA.
Okay, before he went to UCLA.
That I don't know.
That I don't know either. I've just heard. I'm trying to jar my memory here, and I believe that that's the case. He transferred into UCLA from an Ivy League school.
I will say that Sykes impressed, and did so when he's got a kind of a unique opportunity. That Reed's going to be the starter at nose tackle. That Cameron Young's going to be the backup, and there.
Brian Monet's hurt.
Isn't it? You're right. It's not a sexy position. Their job is to keep the linebackers clean and all of that kind of stuff, and not be moved, and in the running game, and it's a tough job that doesn't show up on the stat sheets and that kind of stuff. But he did well and has an opportunity to make the squad because of just the state of the position on the roster. So I liked what I saw from him. I agree with that. And then you're right about Hall and Morris. Those guys impressed. Hall especially looked really fast, and made plays in the backfield, made some mistakes. He's also a rookie in his first preseason game, so it's going to happen. But the athleticism, the talent showed up. And it's hard to believe that Morris is a guy that didn't test well. he dropped to Seattle in the draft where he did because of supposedly he's not athletic. Did you see anything in the game when he was in there that says he's not athletic?
Well, yes. Specifically, no. He did get swallowed up one time.
But he
in a play, and the play, he got kicked inside a little bit too much, and the play went around him. But geez, that's going to happen to anybody. But overall, I'm super excited about those guys, and you hear everyone else talking around the team, all the reporters, the beat writers, and so forth. These two guys, their names come up all the time about being part of a young core that the team's really excited about. You add Boye Mafe to that, and some of the other guys, and we're not even talking about starters yet.
And the entire secondary.
Exactly. I mean, it's going to be an interesting transition year for this defense. They could end up being similar to last year's squad as far as stats, but I don't think so. I think this team is actually going to be improved. It's just a matter of how much.
And I agree. I think they're going to be improved. The other thing that I saw there is they're going to be younger. They are going through and finding, first and second year players that can really play. Mafe and Hall come to mind, and Morris, and they're just getting younger on the back end too, right? With Woolen and Witherspoon, and it's a young core. This isn't like, oh yeah, we got some talent in here, but they're older and they're declining. This is an ascending group of athletes, and I'm really excited about that.
You add Tyreek Smith to that list as well, and there's some opportunities there. Cool. I think that's it. I mean,
there's one other name I wanted us to talk. Oh no, there's two. Trey Brown started at corner, did some nice things in coverage. Got stuck, technically gave up a touchdown, but he was covering two people. And that's never the game plan. And so, that's, I don't put that on him at all. My only concern is that he missed like 2 or 3 tackles, coming up from his corner spot.
Yes. Yeah.
And the two that I'm thinking of, both were ones he could have made.
One was against a tight end that just put a juke move on him a little bit and kind of was too strong for him.
Yeah.
At the angle that he was coming in, he went a little high, I thought, just above the waistline, and he probably could have gone down low, but maybe he didn't want to risk taking out a guy's knees or something in preseason, so he just kind of played it safe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if playing it safe is the right word, but it seemed like it a little bit.
Yeah, there were, like I said, there were a couple of missed tackles that if he makes on it's third down, and so it becomes fourth down and the other team punts. But he missed it, and they got a first down out of it. And
so what do you think the team does? How does the team react to that? Because they know that he's a decent tackler. I mean, that's one of the things that he was known for.
Well, he's known for being a physical hitter, not a tackler in open space. And so I think they look at that and they go, okay, he's not an outside corner. But they don't need one. They've got 3 on the roster, maybe 4.
Do you think that's the reaction inside the film room when they look at film today?
I think so, because he's not a big guy. He's undersized. He looks like a slot corner. And if you can't tackle on the outside and make those plays, then they're not going to trust you on the outside.
Well, okay, so that's one reaction.
Not with this coaching staff. That there's a reason why they love Mike Jackson. Not only is he physical and just works harder than anyone, but he's a damn good tackler. He makes those plays that Trey Brown missed.
That's very true. And you would think, for me, the reaction would be, dude, wrap up, make those plays. You got to make those plays. And I don't know that they necessarily take those opportunities away from him. So as opposed to, Obviously, he's not an outside corner. He's a slot guy. I don't necessarily think they've made that determination completely. They like the diversity I think that he has as far as a skill set. I think they just work on it. They that's a point of emphasis for him going forward, I think, throughout camp.
Yeah, they won't take the opportunities away from him, but he's now being watched. He misses a couple more of those in the next preseason game, which I'm going to be at, by the way.
Nice.
I'm taking the family up to it'll be my kids' first game, so that'll be fun.
Cool.
But
I expect a lot from you then on the follow-up show for sure.
Yeah, if he misses a couple tackles like that, I could see him lining up in the slot almost exclusively after that, just because the team and the coaches they're going to stop trusting him to make those plays because he's not making them. And with different coaches, different teams, they're like, he's a corner. His job is to cover, make plays on the ball.
I have a question for you. I'll just be completely honest. I don't remember Tariq Woolen being that great of a tackler either.
He missed
but
some.
He brings so much more to the game.
He brings size and physicality, and he actually makes some plays because he's bigger than most linebackers.
I'll say he came on at the back half of the season for sure. He became a more complete player, I will say.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was the other player you wanted to talk about really quick, and then we'll get out of it?
Zach Charbonnet, who got a chance, didn't start. DJ Dallas did, and Charbonnet came in, trucked a couple guys, also, made a couple mistakes, but looked physical. There were a couple of runs where he had where I think he misread his blocking because he cut it back into guys when he should have.
Yes.
It
got stuffed up a little bit.
Yep. And he should have continued to go out. So
okay, yes. In a perfect world, yes, but I think the coaches, he did that in college. Okay, just like kind of Ken Walker does. He's the bounce back. He bounces outside frequently. It's hit and miss with Ken Walker. I don't know that they necessarily are coaching that with Charbonnet. They might be coaching him to take what you can get inside, stay inside. He might have been hearing that over and over in his brain.
True, but I'm looking more at within the zone blocking scheme, especially on the zone stretch plays, right? So you're sliding out and you're reading your blocks and you're waiting for a seal. And as soon as you get a seal block, which holds a lineman in, the other ones are going out, that creates a hole, right? It's all about spreading them out horizontally rather than pushing them back vertically. And you need to read where that seal block is and cut right behind it. Through the hole it's created. And a couple times there was a seal block and he cut to the wrong side of the blocker and got himself tackled.
I can envision the play that you're talking about, and I'll just be completely honest. Stone Forsythe missed that block. I don't think that he created that seal. I think that seal was just I think the defensive player was behind Forsythe, but came around quickly and made that play.
Yeah. That's not how I saw it. And I haven't rewatched the film, I haven't looked at the coach's tape, but that's how I saw it in the moment. That's not like a huge knock on Charbonnet. He's running behind his own blocking scheme, which is different than running behind a power blocking scheme. The thing about Marshawn Lynch, who's possibly the best running back in Seahawks history, his first 6 games, after they traded for him in 2010, looked pedestrian. And then something clicked, and we ended up with Beastquake, right? It's not a thing that necessarily comes naturally for running backs if they're not used to it. It's a different way of reading your blocks, and like I said, he trucked some guys. He looked good at times.
Yeah, he did.
I thought he made a couple of mistakes, but
you want to say more?
Yeah, I'm not gonna be like, oh well, he's whatever. No, I mean it's a learning process for him, and I'm totally okay with that. That's what the preseason's for.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he's going to be a fun back to watch, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunities where he does not get stuffed up into the line of scrimmage and has an opportunity in space. You still haven't really seen him. And he created one run where I think it was for about 9 yards. And he juked a couple guys at the line of scrimmage, got around, and a linebacker made the tackle. I want to see more of that just because I'd like to see him break away a little bit and see what he's like running down the field. And I want to see just that, a little bit of that speed. He doesn't have over the top speed, but he
doesn't have Ken Walker
he's
speed.
faster than Chris Carson, and I just want to see that a little bit. I want to see if he's like a 4.45 guy or if he's a 4.5 guy. There's just a little bit of a difference there. I just want to see.
I want to see him get to the linebackers through a hole and what he can do to linebackers when he has the ability to dictate what's going to happen, rather than, okay, he's worried about the defensive lineman getting him, he gets by them and gets tackled. When he actually has a legit hole to run through, what does he do to the linebackers? Can he make them miss, or does he run them over? Like, I want to see him actually get those opportunities. One, because those are big plays.
Does he have a stiff arm? Does he have a spin move? All that stuff.
Yeah, I want to see what that looks like for him. Of course, the linemen, that's the linemen that have to do that. That's not a Zach Charbonnet thing. That's can the offensive line create that opportunity for him?
And we may not see that until the regular season because
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if Cross and Lucas and those guys aren't playing,
right,
you're much less likely to get those kind of holes.
Interesting. All right. Let's wrap this thing up. We've got another game next week. We've got a little bit to wait for that. I think it's next was it Saturday night. So we've got some time now. We'll be back next week to talk. We'll come up with a good show for you, and then we'll do a preview show as well. Fun times. We're in it now. This is good. I love this stuff. You can find Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. You can find me at NW Seahawk. The show is at Seahawks Playbook podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms and YouTube. And when you get there, hit the subscribe button. That would be awesome. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk. Keith is at Myers NFL. And the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.